You're listening to the Computer Repair Academy podcast, a show that's your go-to podcast for easy tech fixes, pro tricks, computer repair tips, and everything you need to keep your computer running smoothly. So if you're ready to upgrade your tech game, then let's dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Computer Repair Academy podcast. I'm your host Jeremy, and today we're pulling back the curtain on what it's really like to work in tech repair. Spoiler alert, it's not all swapping out hard drives and reinstalling Windows. Nope, sometimes it's about dealing with clients who think their monitor is the computer or troubleshooting a PC that turns out to be unplugged. So today's episode is called Behind the Tech Curtain, Stories from the Repair Bench. And let me tell you, I've got some tales that'll have you laughing, cringing, and maybe even shaking your head. Whether you're in the repair business yourself or just enjoy hearing what goes on behind the scenes, stick around. Let's dive into some of the funny moments and most frustrating moments from my time on the repair bench. All right, let's kick things off with one of the more common occurrences. I like to call this one the case of the dead PC. So a client comes in looking completely distraught. They tell me their computer won't turn on, no lights, no sounds, just dead. Naturally, I jump into troubleshooting mode in my head. First thing I do is ask the client if they checked the power cable and power strip at the wall. You know, the classic, is it plugged in? And they look at me like I've insulted their intelligence. Of course it was plugged in. I'm not an idiot. Okay, fair enough. So I put the computer into the tech bench, plugged it in myself, and nothing. Then I notice something odd. The power button on their power supply is switched off. I flip it back on, hit the power button, and voila. The PC comes to life like Frankenstein's monster. Turns out the dead PC was just a victim of a power supply with an off switch. When I told the client, they turned beet red and mumbled something about their cat messing around their computer. Hey, it happens. Moral of the story? Always start with the basics. Sometimes the simplest solution is the right one. And hey, I didn't charge them for that one. I figured the embarrassment was payment enough. Next up, we've got the endless printer battle. If you've ever worked in tech support or computer repair, then you know that printers are the bane of our existence. I once had a client bring in a brand new office printer because it wasn't printing properly. Sounds simple, right? Oh, how wrong I was. So I run a quick diagnostic from the printer screen and everything seems fine. No paper jams, no error codes. I installed it on our tech PC to test it myself and it prints perfectly. I'm feeling pretty good about this one, so I tell the client it's working fine. They're happy to see that it's working at our shop and pick up the printer. They end up calling me the next day saying it's acting up again. So this time I head over to their office. And sure enough, the printer's refusing to print from multiple PCs. After about 30 minutes of troubleshooting, I figured out the issue. The printer was connected to the wrong Wi-Fi network. Turns out little Sally in the break room decided to do the printer install herself and place the printer on the guest Wi-Fi network instead of their secure internal Wi-Fi because she didn't know the Wi-Fi password. After fixing the network settings and getting everything resynced, all of the PCs were printing and the client was thrilled. But let me tell you, printers will test your patience like nothing else, except maybe little Sally's. All right, let's lighten things up with a story I like to call the USB toaster incident. This one's a classic example of people plugging the weirdest gadgets into their computers. A client called me saying their USB ports weren't working. When I asked what they were trying to connect, they said, it's a USB toaster. Naturally, I thought they were joking, but no, they actually had a little toaster that plugged into their computer to toast bread. Because clearly what every desk setup needs is toast on demand. So they bring their PC and mini toaster into the shop for us to look at. I have this slick little USB power tester, so I checked all of the USB ports for proper voltage and the likes. All ports looked good. I tested a USB mouse on all of the ports successfully as well. I plug in the mini toaster to their PC, and Windows immediately powers up with a voltage error message. I explained this to the client, and she admitted to seeing the pop-up, but didn't really read it. LOL. As you can imagine, the toaster wasn't drawing enough power from the USB power tree. It kept freaking out the hub's protection circuits, which made the ports stop working until the next reboot. I again explained the issue and advised the toaster's not going to play nice in its current state. I suggested she get a standalone power brick for the toaster, and she finally came to the reality that she won't have a mini breakfast creation device powered by her PC. People will plug anything into USB ports. Anything. And hey, I give them credit for creativity. At the end of the day, whether it's funny, frustrating, or downright bizarre, Stories like these are why I love working in the computer repair service industry. Every day is different, every problem is a new puzzle, and let's be honest, the stories are half the fun, and we have plenty more of them. Well, we'll wrap it up for today's episode of the Computer Repair Academy podcast. I hope you enjoyed these stories from behind the tech curtain. Whether you're a fellow tech dealing with your own printer battles or just someone who's plugged something questionable into a USB port, I hope this episode gave you a brief laugh. If you've got a funny or frustrating tech story, we'd love to hear it. Drop us a message and maybe we'll feature it in a future episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with someone who could use a good laugh. Otherwise, we'll see you next time in the classroom. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Computer Repair Academy podcast. Until next time, keep those PCs running smoothly.